Welcome to The Way Home with our host, Charmin Wengender. The time is now to take the next steps home. A journey to self, to discover your purpose, and begin living the life you deserve today. We're broadcasting live on Bold Radio. And now, here's your amazing host, Charmin.
Okay, everybody, welcome to today's program. This is The Way Home with Charmin Wengender, and I am your host. Okay, so this is like a really funny show that kind of happened by accident. So I'm planning the show, and it was going to be about I think I might do the show next week, but basically about the importance of water and the other things that we drink, right? So I'm laughing because while I'm writing the show, I'm realizing I'm completely dehydrated. My favorite cup that I use every day, I had left at my parents' house because we had a family party this weekend, and I didn't want to drink from something else, and I literally like being stubborn. Like I was like, well, it'll just get me to go pick it up, and I'll go get that cup, and I'll be hydrated. But there I was writing this show on hydration, and I was completely dehydrated. And it just made me laugh because I realized while I am here giving you all advice each week on how to be, more whole and reclaim the person you're meant to be, and I'm doling out all this advice, it's just a funny thing that I'm not always taking it. And then in that moment, it occurred to me that there is a whole show on that. I think there's this perception. We all have perceptions of other people. And there's this perception of someone like me, a yoga teacher and a life coach, that, we have our shit together, right? That we just are, everything's rainbows and peace. Like we're like this love machine going around always with a solution and everything in balance. And while that might sound flattering, it is entirely not true. In many cases, the truth is I'm a hypocrite because it would be impossible for someone to live an entirely positive life and to, just kind of live by this highest level of integrity and always doing the right thing. I mean, we are human, and it is human to err. It is human to be fallible. So I kind of started laughing. I was like, there's a whole show here because I think if there's one common thing that I have heard from so many moms is, do you even yell at your kids? And every time I laugh because, yeah, I yell at my kids. I think my kids would laugh harder at that question. Of course, I yell at my kids. I yell at my husband. It's a normal house. What makes me different than maybe somebody who hasn't, taken the courses to become, trained in the things that I'm trained in, is that I know the tools, right? I know the tools that should be used. And maybe my batting average is, better than someone who hasn't done this. But I'm going to not always use the tools because, my normal emotional state is going to always remember the things that I'm struggling with. And sometimes I'm going to have the advantage. I'm going to use those tools and I'm going to power right through that situation. But sometimes I'm going to self-sabotage and I'm going to question, my self-worth and my stories from my past or things that I'm working through are going to pull me off my path. And while I know the tools, I don't always use them. See, the idea is that we are all really the same, and it doesn't matter what your what your career is at all. I am no different than you. Each of us are going to struggle sometimes, and we just all need to learn the tools. And so this is what makes it so great to work with a coach, right? Because sometimes even I just need somebody to tell me what to do. I think the perception is I've got it all figured out, like I just smile through it all. But that is not true. What we all share in common is that we all want to be seen and we all want to be heard. Now, for me to be seen as somebody who's always in balance, who's got it all figured out, might might create the illusion, and it's definitely an illusion, that I don't need help or support, right? Or it might create an insecurity, right? It might be damaging and discouraging to some of my clients or my friends or family that think that, wow, she's got it all figured out. I could never do that. I could never be like that. And almost in some way, needing to create a little separation because that is not normal. If that's how she is, like I suffer a lot or I struggle a lot, and so I don't have anything in common with someone like that. Well, like again, that's very flattering to think that maybe that's me, but it's not anyone. Even Wayne Dyer, a really famous personal development expert, he got divorced, right? So you're looking at some people and saying, well, gee, if Wayne Dyer, struggled in his marriage, I mean, he's like the expert of love and peace. Like, how does that happen? Well, because we're all the same. See, I have the tools. As a coach, I can tell you the tools. But what happens when it's our own situation is our stories create our projection in our mind, the movie reel. We've talked about this in the first or second show. Each of us have a movie reel running in our head every day. And that movie reel is going to create, that movie reel is your stories, right? Your past, the things that occurred to you, the things that you're struggling with. And that movie reel creates your perception of any situation. It is going to be the lens with which you see your life. So on some days, if you're working with a coach, you'll say, oh, I remember, I'm going through this one thing. And I remember, Charmin said, this is what I need to do. Well, on some days, you're going to feel really empowered, and you're going to feel strong about your self-worth, and you're going to have this positive mind frame, and you're going to reach for that tool, and you're going to use it, and you're going to power through it. But, not every day is created equally. And on some days, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you know the exact tool to use. But that inner narrator that we all have is going to start replaying a story in your life that makes you question maybe your identity or your self-worth, and it makes you reluctant to use the tool, for whatever reason. And so why using a coach is great is it holds you accountable. It holds you accountable, and it's that unbiased view of your life. So it's somebody who's going to listen to your stories, who's going to listen to your struggle, who's going to provide expert advice on which tool is going to use to get you back on track. Now, like any muscle, the more you use it, the better you become at it. Right? So you'll begin to use it more and more often. Different tools. Any good tool belt has a variety of tools. Sometimes you need, a wrench. Sometimes you need a hammer. So having more tools at your disposal is going to make you more capable of handling situations. And you're going to get better and see improvements. However, you're going to stumble and you're going to fall. And even though you know the right thing to do, you're not going to do it sometimes. And this is where you need to accept that that's true for everyone. I may have a lot more tools than you because of my training, because of, the different conferences I attend, etc. But at the end of the day, all of us have stories that create this really unique perception of this life that we're living. And so basically, that is what we call in coaching and in psychology, they call that your shadow side. See, our shadows are anything in you that you think is not lovable, and so you hide them. No one is perfect, right? So look at your life right now and ask yourself, is there something you don't want your neighbor to know? Is there something that even maybe your family or best friends don't know about you? I assure you this is true for everyone you encounter. And while we have these views of people, they've got their stuff together, they're so polished, or they're so poised, or they're so happy, it's what they're showing you. There isn't anybody who hasn't occurred trauma or heartbreak or disappointment or loss in their life. Most of us try very hard to conceal those aspects of our personality, right? And it might be because we've heard like, oh, be positive and, put your best foot forward. And that's true. Um, it's also because we know we have to put these masks on, right? We can't walk around with our wounds exposed all the time. We need to be the mom. We need to be the employee. We need to be the friend, the sister. We all have these masks that we wear. And some of us see people that, we're in relationships with or that we're working with, and we see them with only this one-dimensional view of who they are. And we forget that everyone has a story. Like everyone is struggling with something that you could never understand. Everyone has shadow sides. And when you realize that, you take people right off of the pedestal that they were placed on, because no one puts anyone on a pedestal but you. And so when you take them off their pedestal and when you see their humanness and their their flaws and their imperfections and their struggles, then you really humanize not just them, but like the whole world. Because if you see someone as better than you, there's just no chance you're not then seeing yourself as less than. And if you're seeing yourself then less than, then that story in your mind is then again coloring and becoming the lens with which you see yourself for other situations. So I'm here to bust the myth that I am not all balanced and peaceful, because I think that it's doing a disservice to anyone around me. I want people to understand that, there's humor in all of it. It's a tool belt for sure. And I want you to learn the tools, but know that I come to my support group, my network, often revealing, the things I'm working out. Because sometimes I need somebody to guide me in the right direction because my perceptions are too colored by my stories. So an unbiased view really is what helps me a lot. This is why everyone needs a support group. Everyone needs that one person they can talk to, because you got to get out of your own head, right? So look at your own life right now and how many people know your shadow sides. Are you just going forward with this like shiny mask that, you think is to your highest good? Like it's helping you in some way? Because the truth is, if you humanize yourself right now, if you start revealing that you've got these other parts that aren't so lovable, what you then are creating is common ground, because that is the underlying truth for all of us. A long time ago when I was studying to become a yoga teacher, it was the first time for me I kind of dove into that personal wellness kind of category. And I remember this one time, even my own husband, and we crack up about this situation. I was literally entrenched with my yoga training. And, it was goofy. I mean, I look back at it now and it was just kind of because I was entrenched and I was surrounded by, peace-loving people, and I was required to read all these books on personal growth and development and positive thinking. And, because I was so consumed by it, I definitely was portraying this image of this really balanced, like really peaceful person. And I remember this one day in the midst of it all, I'd just come home from class and my husband was trying to change the trash. And in our kitchen, we have the kind of trash that's like in the kitchen counter. Like you have to pull the drawer out to then remove the barrel. And so he's in the kitchen and I'm watching him. I'm sitting on the couch and I'm watching him because it won't open because of me. I always overstuff the garbage, which makes him nuts. And he always says, don't overstuff the garbage, blah, blah, blah. So on this one day, he's like trying to yank the drawer out and he's, grumbling and he's kind of sounding like Frankenstein, like these grunts are coming out of his body and his face is starting to like get really tense and he's like, doing his thing. And in my I don't know, holier than thou kind of like moment, I was like, honey, it's just trash. I think I said it in like my best Om voice that I could even, come up with at that time. And he looked at me and he was so mad. He said, okay, Swami mommy. And at that moment, I busted out laughing and realized that what a false like identity I was putting forward. Like I was like, oh, it's all Om. It's just like never be mad. And he had every right to call me Swami Mommy. That name stuck, by the way. Anytime I was getting too Omy, too like peaceful, he would like kind of write me, and we would joke about I was being kind of swami mommy. I remember one time the plumber came, and as he was leaving, I was like namasteing him out the door. Like, there's a time and place for everything. And I think if you portray that you're super evolved or you're super peaceful, it is going to maybe make somebody else feel less than around you. It's like we are human, and he had every right to be mad, and I'd overstuffed the barrel. And yeah, so just understanding that, in that moment, he gave me levity. He gave me that sense of humor about, okay, reel it in a little bit. But at the same time, it made me realize, like, I am him. I'm him a lot. Like, just the morning before that, I was screaming at the kids because I couldn't get him on the bus. I'm not Swami mommy. I can't, dole out the advice all the time and not take it all the time. So, that has become a story that we stuck around, but this is about busting the myth. When I started my studio here at my house, my mother got me this tray, like this decorative tray. And again, finding levity in all of it, because nobody has all the answers and nobody has it all figured out. Like, life is so unpredictable and it's so uncomfortable. Every single moment is a step into the unknown. You have the tools for sure, but again, you're perceiving it from where you stand. And every day you're going to either be in the right place or the wrong place, depending on where your mind's at. So anyways, my mom got me this dish, and on it says, take my advice. I'm not using it. And I put it there as a reminder that while I'm giving you advice all the time, I'm also struggling with, at times, taking my own advice. Like, I still hold resentments. I still get angry. I still shout at my kids. Hopefully, my batting average is better than some that aren't doing the work. But I am certainly not walking around, blowing love all over everybody and, seeing rainbows. It's just not possible. Assumptions about people that aren't true are damaging for everyone. So, yes, I'm a hypocrite sometimes, but I do strive to take my own advice, as I hope you'll take, mine as well. Again, if anyone has any comments, please just visit the Spreaker window, the chat window. Let me know what you're struggling with. Let me know, what you're going through, because everybody's going through something. And again, that's what coaches are for. They help you see your situation in an unbiased way, to give you advice so that you can get out of your own way and get right back on the track that you were meant to be in. Like, I use this example a lot in my coaching, and I think I've even used it in many of my yoga classes. Our mind is such a powerful thing. And again, it really is the lens with which we see the world. So if we've got this noisy brain that's like really replaying our stories, and, we're kind of stuck in our shadow side, and, we feel like we're a fake, or we're just not worthy, or identity is a little mixed up, that is literally like a radio station in the car, like that it's playing and you're listening to this radio station. If the song you hate comes on, the song that gets on your nerves, or the song that's so overplayed comes on in the car, do you sit there and drive along and like the whole time feel very frustrated that this terrible song is on? Or do you just simply reach over and change the station? I think I know the answer. I know for me, I change the station. And the same is true for you. When you're having thoughts that aren't serving you, when you're having thoughts that are keeping you stuck on your shadow side, that are making you question who you are, or making you compare yourself to others, like, oh, I wish I was a parent like Charm. She probably never yells at her kids. Like, when you're in the comparison, or the comparathon, as I call it, know that you're stuck and you need to change the station. And if you feel like you can't do it yourself, that's exactly why you call a friend or you call a life coach. It's that unbiased realignment that you are needing. Because truly, we all sometimes just need someone else to tell us what to do. So everyone's fighting a battle that you would never understand. So really try to reel it in. I'm getting feedback now that people change a station immediately, and I love that. Good. Change a station immediately. And, and if you can't, again, seek out somebody who can help you do that. Because when you see somebody for their job or for how they look, like maybe they always look really poised and really put together, maybe that makes you feel like a total frumpadump. Like maybe you're just like, I cannot get it together like so-and-so. Or, maybe you judge somebody for their job, and around them you just feel like a failure. Or, I don't even know. Like, isn't this judging the book by the cover? Because the truth is, whoever you're putting that, I want to say stereotype on, but whoever you're like perceiving as having it all together, I'm not trying to upset you, but I'm going to tell you bluntly, you are wrong about everyone you have placed one mask on, because nobody is one dimensional. That really well dressed person might really be crying alone at night because they have absolutely no way, to deal with their, children. They judge themselves as a mom, and that's a true struggle for so many women. Or that woman whose house is always tidy, right? She might, secretly, have her life taxes and will and everything else a hot mess, no, or her personal stuff deep inside. Looking at, men are just the same. And in fact, men judge each other so much for the work that they do. But so many men, everyone has their childhood and their stories. And men, they have these bravados, these, strong exteriors. Like they might feel super weak and super afraid on the inside. Never judge a book by its cover. Every single person is seriously struggling with their stories. Now, it's not to say that it is a, wet blanket that like no one will rise above their stories. It's not that at all. I often say you can't change the stories in your life, but you can change the way they live in your body. So if again, you're stuck in your, questioning who you are or feeling like a fake or your identity or your self-worth, and you can't get out of your own way, again, seek support or get a life coach. This is the purpose, getting out of your own way. And again, I often try to get out of my own way. I need my husband to realign, Swami Mommy. I need my friends to be like, this is who I see you as. Every relationship too can really bring out a different aspect of yourself, which brings me to another point. When we don't know who we are, we sometimes become shapeshifters, right? So around some people, if I really think they need me to be this peace-loving person, I might become more of that person because I think it's what they want from me, right? Or when I'm around somebody who loves how funny I am, I might like really try to be the comedian because that's what I think they want from me. So again, you might be seeing one aspect of somebody in any situation, but it's the aspect that they think either you want to see, or it's the aspect that they are conveying, either because of what they think you want to see, or because of the story in their head. Because on the opposite spectrum, if they're not outwardly thinking about what you might want to see from them, and you can ask yourself the same question, like who you are in any group, it might be because that's what you think they want from you. Or you might literally be a little bit uneasy. Anxiety kind of comes to play and you kind of forget who you are. Or you're so sure they see you as this one thing that you're awkward in your own skin, like you don't know how to be who you really are. I know for some people when they're around me and I'm cussing and I'm like off the cuff, or maybe I'm talking about how, I had a really stressful day, and, they're surprised sometimes. Like sometimes we get upset when someone's not who we want them to be, but we can't hold anybody accountable for being multidimensional. We have to understand nobody's got it figured out. We're all doing the best we can. And, and so that is really important. There are three things that we all need in life. We all need to be seen, and not just for the one mask, but for who we truly are at the core, with our history and where we are literally in this moment, because who we are changes, right? It changes with our financial stress, or our, child rearing stress, or our marital stress, or our career stress. Life changes us from moment to moment. So who you knew me at, when I was 12, or who I was at 18, I'm not nearly that same person. So you might want to hold me down, like with your thumb, like, but this is who Charm is. Well, I am that. And I'm so much more, as is true for you. My mom and I, we were laughing last week. I always love calling her after the show because it's hysterical. It's like the post game after a great game. And I literally hate my show every week until I hear that you all love it. It's like I'm my self-critic, right? So there you go. Take my advice. I'm not using it. I'm self-sabotaging every week. Like, oh, I wish I said this. I wish I said that. So I do that, but then I get all this great feedback. My phone blows up, and you are all amazing, and you keep me centered. You keep reminding me, that you're getting something out of my shows, and each week I'm reminded of that, and it fills me up, and it's great. But again, I'm sure after today's show, I'll question until you text or email me. So please text or email me and tell me how much you loved it. No, but truthfully, the other thing that happens is that just last week we were chatting about how different I am online. There's a persona I'm giving you. The truth is, I don't use this vocabulary when I'm chatting with you at a coffee shop, when I'm hanging out with my husband or with friends or, at a party. This isn't how I talk. I'm trying to reach you, and I'm articulating and enunciating and using words that, have meaning and depth, and I'm trying to trigger emotions. And so I am talking in a totally different persona than like my friends on the street are going to see. And I even joked, I'm like, who is that woman online? But I think this is what happens. If you didn't have the opportunity to hear me kind of kick the tires in my own perception, then you might have held me on a pedestal of being somebody who is, maybe more enlightened and, different than you. But the thing is, no matter what your profession, no matter what you do with yourself, with your life, no matter how successful you are, the real you is so much more than that. Everything about you is about this life's journey, and you are supposed to own it in all of your humanness and not hide it. Remember, everyone has a shadow side, and everybody has parts about them that they feel are not lovable. And if you can find the courage to own all of those pieces, to literally bring those shadow side pieces up, to embrace them and say, this is me too, like I'm all of this, then that is precisely the point at which A, you will find connection to others, and B, you will find the happiness that you are looking for. Feeling stuck and feeling boxed into one identity is going to feel confining and fake. So again, if you have something you're struggling with, email me or call me. We can line up to work one-on-one. This is how you move on and evolve to who you're meant to be. Again, you can't change your stories, but you can change how they live inside your body. You can learn how to change that radio station. Visit me at www.charminhome.com. Oh, I almost gave my number. Don't call me, but you can text me. Nope, you can't text me either. You can email me at No, what is wrong with me? I'm trying to close the show, and this is how you reach me. All right, get your pencils out. charminsflowyoga@gmail.com. So again, see, here I am ending the show with a flaw. Nobody's perfect, and don't put anybody on a pedestal. Everybody has multiple sides, and so just go out into the world and see everyone for all of their humanness. We really are all connected in that. Thanks for being here today. I'll see you next week at the same time, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. This is The Way Home, and I am your host, Charmin Wengender. Thanks for joining me.
Need more Charmin? Visit www.charminhome.com and explore your next steps of arriving home. Remember to join us next week right here on Bold Radio Station.